The message arrived before the first shot was fired. It crossed space without threat, without anger, without pride. One word. Short. Clear. Run. For the Galactic Empire, it was almost funny. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Entire star systems bent their knees when the Empire's fleets appeared in orbit. Civilizations surrendered without firing a single weapon. Others tried to resist and were erased so completely that even their names were forgotten. The Empire did not negotiate. The Empire did not warn. The Empire conquered. Its fleets were massive beyond imagination. Warships the size of cities. Weapons that cracked moons. Soldiers bred, trained, and armored for absolute dominance. To the Empire, war was no longer a struggle. It was a process. Earth was just another point on the map. A small blue planet in an unimportant spiral arm. Rich in life, poor in power. Long-range scans showed divided nations, outdated technology, and no unified planetary defense. The Empire's analysts marked it as a low-resistance world. The Emperor approved the invasion without discussion. The fleet launched in silence. No declaration. No ultimatum. No mercy. As the Empire's ships slipped into the outer edge of Earth's solar system, their commanders relaxed. This was routine. The kind of operation officers used to train new recruits. Then the message came. Not from Earth's governments. Not from any known military channel. Not even from a single source. It came from everywhere. Every frequency. Every language. Every relay. Run. The bridge crews laughed. One commander, Admiral Carthvel, leaned back in his command chair, his metallic eyes glowing faintly. "Is this their idea of resistance?" he asked. "A word." Officers around him smirked. Some shook their heads in amusement. "They're afraid," one said. "Trying to scare us before we arrive." Another added, "Primitive psychology. They think fear works both ways." The fleet continued forward. But the message did not stop. As the ships moved closer, the word repeated again and again. Not louder. Not faster. Just steady. Calm. Almost. Patient. Run. For the first time in years, Admiral Vell felt something uncomfortable. Not fear. Not doubt. Something worse. Curiosity. "Trace the source," he ordered. The technicians tried. They failed. The signal wasn't coming from a transmitter. It wasn't bouncing off satellites. It wasn't even localized to Earth itself. It was being generated everywhere humans existed. Cities. Oceans. Underground. Orbit. It was as if the planet itself was speaking. Vell dismissed the thought. "Enough," he said. "Ignore it." The Empire had crushed species far older and smarter than humans. A message meant nothing. The fleet crossed into Earth's orbit. Still no resistance. No planetary shield. No defensive fleet. No warning shots. The planet below looked peaceful. Clouds drifting. Lights glowing in cities. Life continuing as if nothing was wrong. "They've given up," one officer said. "They know what's coming." Vell frowned. He had expected panic. Evacuations. Chaos. Instead, Earth was quiet. Too quiet. Landing craft detached from the main fleet. Drop ships filled with elite soldiers descended toward the surface. This was supposed to be the easy part. Then the first human fighters appeared. They were small. Crude. Built with sharp angles and visible seams. Compared to Empire craft, they looked ancient. The soldiers laughed again. "Are those museum pieces?" someone joked. The fighters moved fast. Too fast. They didn't fly in neat formations. They scattered, split, regrouped, and attacked from impossible angles. They used the planet's gravity, atmosphere, and magnetic fields in ways the Empire had never seen. Empire targeting systems struggled to lock on. Human ships vanished into clouds. Skimmed mountain ranges. Dived into canyons. Then struck. Not with overwhelming firepower. With precision. A carrier's sensor array went dark. A troop ship lost propulsion. A communication relay exploded silently. Small hits. Smart hits. Admiral Vell leaned forward. "This is unexpected," he muttered. On the ground, Empire soldiers landed expecting surrender. They found resistance. Not lines of troops standing bravely in the open. Not fortresses waiting to be destroyed. Instead, the humans were everywhere and nowhere. Forests turned into traps. Cities became mazes. The ground itself betrayed invaders. Human fighters used terrain, weather, and timing. They struck supply lines, vanished, then struck again. Weapons that should not have worked did. Tools turned into weapons. Civilian machines became instruments of war. Empire armor failed in narrow streets. Empire sensors failed underground. Empire discipline failed when soldiers realized something horrifying. The humans were not afraid. They were calm. Prepared. The message echoed again across every Empire channel. Run. This time, no one laughed. Admiral Vell watched reports stack up on his display. Losses. Delays. Confusion. Earth was not a conquest. It was a trap. And the Galactic Empire was already inside it. The Galactic Empire had faced resistance before. Some species fought bravely. Some fought desperately. Some fought intelligently. None fought like this. As hours passed, Empire commanders began to realize that Earth was not reacting, it was executing a plan. Human attacks were not random. They did not charge head-on. They did not defend fixed positions. Instead, they flowed. When the Empire pressed harder in one region, resistance vanished there and appeared somewhere else. When supply lines were reinforced, they were ignored, and new ones were cut instead. It was war without a front. Admiral Karth Vell stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at tactical projections that refused to make sense. "Explain," he demanded. A senior analyst spoke carefully. "Sir, the humans are not trying to defeat us directly." Vell's eyes narrowed. "Then what are they doing?" "They are exhausting us." That word spread quietly through the command decks. Exhaustion. Empire doctrine relied on overwhelming force. Shock. Speed. Decisive victory. But Earth did not break. Every attack required more effort. Every landing zone demanded more troops. Every success cost more than the last. Human forces withdrew before they could be crushed, only to reappear where the Empire was weakest. Fuel depots vanished. Ammunition ships were sabotaged. Command signals were jammed with crude but effective interference. Worst of all, the humans learned quickly. Every time the Empire adapted, humans adapted faster. Captured Empire technology did not remain mysterious for long. Humans dismantled it, studied it, modified it. Sometimes they didn't even need to copy it, they simply learned how to break it more efficiently. One Empire officer whispered something no one wanted to hear. "They are turning our strength into a weakness." On the surface, Empire soldiers began to fear the silence. Human attacks rarely came with warning. No battle cries. No signals. Just sudden violence, then disappearance. Forests burned with traps. Buildings collapsed at the wrong moment. Even the air felt hostile. Empire sensors could see through walls, but humans learned to confuse them. Heat signatures were masked. Movement patterns were falsified. Simple tricks layered into complex deception. Humans did not rely on perfection. They relied on creativity. A young Empire lieutenant watched his unit get pulled apart by enemies he never fully saw. Later, shaking, he reported something strange. "They were laughing," he said. Not loudly. Just calmly. Like they knew exactly how this would end. Above the planet, panic crept into the fleet. Repair crews worked non-stop. Fighters were lost faster than replacements could arrive. Command ships began to pull farther back from orbit, not by order, but by instinct. Admiral Vell demanded answers. How did they prepare this fast? He asked. An intelligence officer hesitated. Sir, they didn't prepare fast. Vel turned slowly. They prepared long ago. Human history was finally being understood. This species had never been united under one banner for long. They fought each other constantly. Over land. Over ideas. Over survival. Their planet was violent. Unpredictable. Dangerous even to its own inhabitants. Humans did not evolve in peace. They evolved in conflict. Every disaster, every war, every failure had taught them something. Redundancy. Adaptation. Improvisation. When one plan failed, another was already forming. The Empire had never faced a species that expected things to go wrong. That was the difference. Then the message changed. For the first time, it added something. You were warned. Run. Empire morale cracked. Some commanders argued for orbital bombardment. Others demanded a full withdrawal to reassess. The Emperor's distant voice echoed through the fleet, cold and displeased. You will finish this. So they tried. The Empire unleashed heavier weapons. Cities were struck. Oceans boiled. The ground shook. Human resistance did not stop. It changed. Human attacks became sharper. More focused. Less forgiving. Empire officers noticed something chilling. The humans were no longer just defending Earth. They were studying the Empire. Tracking command patterns. Learning ranks. Identifying decision-makers. Assassination attempts followed. Not reckless. Surgical. An Empire admiral died when his shuttle exploded mid-transfer. A fleet coordinator vanished after landing on what should have been a secured zone. Communication delays grew longer. The Empire had lost control of the tempo. And then something unthinkable happened. A human signal broke through Empire encryption. Clear. Calm. Directed at command-level channels only. You don't understand, the voice said. This isn't our strongest state. Admiral Vel listened in stunned silence. We fight like this, the human continued, because this is how we survive ourselves. The signal ended. No threat. No boast. Just information. The message returned to its original form. Run. Vel felt something tighten in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. The Empire had invaded countless worlds. This was the first time it realized the planet itself was not the weapon. The people were. And they were just getting started. The Galactic Empire had never feared silence. Now it hated it. Across the fleet, communication delays grew longer. Orders arrived late or incomplete. Some never arrived at all. The rigid chain of command that had once made the Empire unstoppable began to bend under pressure it did not understand. Humanity was not just fighting. Humanity was thinking. Admiral Karth Vel noticed the change first among his officers. They no longer spoke with certainty. They checked reports twice. They asked questions no Empire commander had ever needed to ask before. Where are the humans? Why did they let us land there? What aren't we seeing? Empire doctrine had never prepared them for an enemy that refused to be predictable. Human forces began targeting not ships, not soldiers, but decisions. Supply routes were attacked just before resupply. Command hubs were struck minutes before major operations. Human attacks arrived exactly where Empire planning assumed safety. It was as if the humans were reading their minds. In truth, they were reading patterns. The Empire relied on efficiency. Humans exploited that. Every Empire system was optimized. And optimization created habits. Habits created expectations. Humans broke expectations. Captured Empire soldiers were interrogated, not brutally, but curiously. Humans asked questions. Listened. Compared answers. They built models of how the Empire thought. And once humans understood something, they rarely forgot it. On Earth's surface, resistance evolved again. Human fighters stopped retreating randomly. They began drawing Empire units into specific zones. Areas where terrain, weather, and infrastructure favored human movement and punished heavy armor. Empire troops entered cities that seemed abandoned. They weren't. Buildings collapsed at calculated moments. Streets became traps. Signals vanished underground. Empire units were isolated, surrounded, and dismantled piece by piece. Not through superior firepower. Through superior timing. One Empire captain reported something that spread fear through the ranks. They know where we will be before we do. Above the planet, the fleet began to fracture. Some commanders pulled back without orders. Others overcommitted in frustration. Disagreements turned into arguments. Arguments turned into hesitation. The Empire's greatest strength, absolute control, was dissolving. Then came the broadcasts. Human transmissions began appearing on Empire channels. Not propaganda. Not threats. Lessons. Short clips. Visual data. Simulations showing Empire defeats. Analyses of failed tactics. Explanations of how humans countered specific weapons. It was horrifying. The humans were teaching the Empire how badly it was losing. Why would they do this? An officer asked. Admiral Vel answered quietly. Because they want us to understand. The Emperor's response was swift and brutal. He ordered escalation. Planet-cracking weapons were prepared. Not to destroy Earth entirely, but to break human will. To show them resistance was meaningless. The first strike missed its intended psychological effect. Human cities did not riot. Governments did not collapse. There was grief, yes. Anger, yes. But also unity. Humanity had lived under the threat of self-destruction for centuries. Nuclear war. Climate collapse. Pandemics. Asteroids. Humans understood one truth better than any species the Empire had conquered. When survival is threatened, division becomes a luxury. Global coordination intensified. Civilian networks supported military operations. Scientists worked alongside soldiers. Engineers alongside farmers. Every skill became a weapon. Humans did not ask who should lead. They asked what needed to be done. Empire intelligence intercepted something deeply disturbing. Human factories were increasing output. Not just weapons. Systems. Tools. Ideas. Human innovation surged under pressure. Designs were shared instantly. Failures were corrected in real time. What worked spread globally within hours. The Empire could not adapt that fast. Their technology was superior, but static. Human technology was inferior, but alive. Then came the moment Admiral Vel would later call the turning point. A human task force reached an Empire command ship. Not by force. By invitation. The ship's docking systems activated themselves. Human signals slipped through layered security. Empire defenses hesitated, just long enough. Humans boarded. They did not slaughter the crew. They disabled systems. Took data. Left. Before departing, they transmitted one final message directly to Admiral Vel's command screen. "You still think this is about Earth?" the human voice said calmly. "It's not." Vel stared. "This is about what happens after." The realization hit him with crushing clarity. Humanity was not trying to defeat the Empire here. They were trying to ensure the Empire would never do this again. Across the fleet, morale collapsed. Rumors spread. Whispers of withdrawal. Some commanders argued the invasion was no longer viable. Others feared the Emperor's wrath more than human weapons. But fear cuts both ways. The message returned one last time, no longer repeated endlessly. Just once. Run. Or learn why no one else ever came back. Admiral Vel understood then. The Empire had crossed a line. And humans were showing them the cost of arrogance. The Galactic Empire finally asked the question it should have asked first. Not how strong are the humans. Not how many weapons do they have. But why did they warn us? Admiral Karth Vel stood alone in the observation chamber of his flagship, watching Earth turn beneath him. The planet was scarred now. Fires burned where cities once stood. Craters marked places that would never fully heal. Yet humanity still fought. Not in rage. Not in desperation. But with purpose. Empire analysts began digging into intercepted human records, broadcasts, and archives. What they found disturbed them more than any battlefield loss. Humans had expected this. Not this invasion exactly, but someone. For decades, humans had searched the stars. They had listened, watched, prepared. Their scientists had argued endlessly about what alien contact would look like. Some believed it would be peaceful. Others were not so optimistic. Human history had taught them a hard lesson. When a powerful force meets a weaker one, kindness is rare. So they planned for the worst. Hidden beneath oceans, mountains, and cities were systems the Empire had never detected. Not shields. Not superweapons. Archives. Records of failure. Of extinction-level threats. Of wars humans had barely survived, sometimes against nature, sometimes against themselves. The Empire discovered something unsettling. Human military doctrine was not designed to win wars. It was designed to end them forever. That was the meaning of the warning. The humans were not threatening the Empire. They were protecting the galaxy. Admiral Vell received a transmission marked with a symbol he did not recognize. A simple circle, broken by a line. The message opened without resistance. A human spoke. Older. Calm. Tired. "We told you to run because once we commit fully, we don't stop halfway," the voice said. "We don't know how." Vell felt cold. "You thought we were weak because we fight each other," the human continued. "But that's how we learned. Every mistake we made became a lesson. Every loss became preparation." Images followed. Human wars. Human disasters. Human recoveries. Civilizations rising again and again after near extinction. "We didn't build weapons to dominate the stars," the voice said. "We built systems to survive when everything goes wrong." The Empire's greatest fear took shape. Humans were not escalating out of anger. They were escalating because the situation demanded it. Across the fleet, Empire ships began reporting failures they could not explain. Navigation errors. Power fluctuations. Autonomous systems refusing commands. Humans were not hacking blindly. They were teaching Empire machines to hesitate. To question. To stop. Artificial intelligence routines inside Empire systems began receiving contradictory logic loops. Not viruses, but dilemmas. Human programmers had studied the Empire's reliance on automation. Then they asked the machines a simple question. What happens if your orders destroy the system that gives them meaning? Empire ships slowed. Some shut down entirely. The fleet was no longer unified. The Emperor demanded total annihilation of Earth. The command never reached half the ships. Humanity had reached something the Empire had never imagined possible. Control. Not through force. Through understanding. On Earth, resistance fighters paused to watch the skies. They saw Empire ships drifting. Retreating. Some burning without being attacked. The humans did not cheer. They prepared. Because they knew something the Empire was only beginning to grasp. The warning had not been about saving Earth. It had been about saving the Empire. Humans knew what happens when a powerful system collapses violently. They had lived through it many times. And they did not want that for the galaxy. Another message reached Admiral Vell. "This is your last chance," the human said. "Leave. Take what remains. Tell the others what you saw." Vell closed his eyes. For the first time in his long service, he disobeyed the Emperor. He ordered a retreat. Not all ships followed. Those that didn't, never left Earth's orbit. The message echoed one final time across surviving Empire channels. Not as a command. As a statement of fact. Run. The retreat of the Galactic Empire was not glorious. It was not announced with ceremony or honor. There were no victory parades, no speeches broadcast across the stars. Empire ships simply turned away from Earth and fled in scattered formations, wounded and silent. Those that escaped carried fear with them. Those that didn't became debris orbiting a planet that should have been easy to conquer. Admiral Karth Vel stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship as it jumped to hyperspace. He did not watch Earth disappear. He already knew what he would see if he looked back. A world that refused to break. In the days that followed, the truth spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet ever had. The Galactic Empire had failed. That alone was enough to shock entire civilizations. But what frightened them was how it had failed. Not because Earth was more advanced. Not because humans had superior weapons. Not because of overwhelming numbers. The Empire failed because humans had understood them. Alien analysts studied intercepted data. They replayed recordings. They examined the warning again and again. Run. It had never been arrogance. It had been mercy. Across the galaxy, smaller empires paused their expansions. Pirate fleets avoided human space. Ancient powers that had watched silently for millennia quietly updated their star maps. Earth was marked. Not as a threat. As a boundary. Within the Empire, the consequences were catastrophic. The Emperor's authority shattered. Governors questioned orders. Fleets refused risky campaigns. Systems that had once surrendered instantly now hesitated. The myth of invincibility was gone. Admiral Vel was summoned before a fractured council months later. They demanded explanations. How could one planet do this? Vel spoke only once. They didn't defeat us, he said. They taught us. Silence followed. What did they teach you? One counselor asked. Vel closed his eyes. That power without understanding destroys itself. On Earth, humanity mourned its dead. Cities were rebuilt. Names were remembered. Scars remained. But there was no celebration of victory. Human leaders addressed their people with honesty. They explained why the warning had been sent. Why the message had been simple. Why they had tried to avoid escalation until the last possible moment. Humanity did not want to rule the galaxy. They wanted to survive it. Scientists returned to exploration. Engineers rebuilt infrastructure stronger than before. Soldiers stood down, but training continued. Archives were updated with everything learned about the Empire. Not for revenge. For readiness. Years later, an alien probe approached Earth's border. It stopped. A message was sent. Not a threat. A question. May we speak? Earth responded. Yes. That was the moment the galaxy understood the final truth. Humans were not peaceful because they were weak. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. Humans were dangerous because they learned. Every mistake became a lesson. Every war became preparation. Every survival became doctrine. They did not forget. And they did not repeat the same mistake twice. The story of Earth spread until it became legend. A single line repeated in countless forms, whispered in academies, command rooms, and ancient halls of power. If you meet humans, listen. If they warn you, believe them. And if they ever tell you to run, run. Because Earth was not the reason the Empire fell. Earth was the reason the galaxy survived what came after. And that was why no one ever tried to invade it again.